I had no idea that I was wasting years of my music production journey until after I made the mistakes that I'm gonna go through and fix for you in today's video. From techniques and mixing to artist examples and workflow, today's video has everything you're gonna need to level up your music production game. Let's kick this off with a 10-second clip from someone we all need to learn from.
I wrote more than 700 pages of lyrics in 5 months, around about 300 songs. Not very good songs, but I have a theory that that you have to write the wrong songs before you can write the right songs.
Now you might not realize it, but Lucas actually just shared a very interesting secret, especially if your project folder looks something like this. See, what he experienced is the same as this creative work parable from the book Art and Fear, and I think we can learn so much from just one paragraph. It's about a ceramics teacher, and on his opening day, he let his students know that he was dividing the class into 2 groups. All those on the left side of the studio, he said, would be graded solely on the quantity of work they produced, while those on the right side solely on the quality. Well, a month passed, grading time came, and a curious fact emerged. The works of the highest quality were all produced by the group being graded for quantity. It seems that while the quantity group was busy churning out piles of work and learning from their mistakes, the quality group had sat theorizing about perfection, and in the end had little more to show for their efforts than grandiose theories and a pile of dead clay. Quantity leads to quality. It's way too easy to get stuck overthinking, delaying, waiting for inspiration, or waiting for perfection, when all you really need to do is show up, do work, and keep showing up. Because until you've mentally committed to doing something over and over again, you're not going to improve. Get into the habit of finishing a couple songs a week, and don't worry about these being instant classics at the start. They just need to be finished. You need to write your 200 bad songs. Now, unfortunately, there's a huge problem in the music production community that's preventing artists from finishing their song. That's what we call loop limbo. You know what I do when I get stuck on that dreaded 8-bar loop with no hope of expanding on it? I hit up one of my favorite artists, Selenium, and I ask him what he would do next. And you might be thinking, okay, Aaron, I can't do that, so what am I supposed to do? And to that I would say, you're wrong, and you can, and here's how. Okay, so you're at the point where you either have a loop and you don't know where to go next, or you might even be stuck on where to start. Quick, think about a song you've been listening to a lot lately. Let's super legally download that, hopefully without giving our computer aids. Let's also find the BPM and key. Now we have the beats per minute for our project file and the key of the song, which shows us all the notes we're allowed to use. You might be asking why this is so powerful. Maybe because you have a successful song formula sitting right in front of you that's been proven by the market, and all you need to do is follow along, go through and dissect it. How many elements are at the start? When do they bring in additional elements? When do they subtract elements? How many bars is the intro? How long is the build up, the drop, the chorus? How loud is everything in comparison to each other? There's a reason they made these choices, and as a beginner you'd be crazy not to take advantage of this. It's like being personally tutored by all your favorite artists. Even Skrillex uses references, and he's a pro. Now you have a perfectly arranged song, and all you have to do is go in and add your little twist on it. Now learning from those we admire is absolutely essential to becoming better, but you might get a little stressed about sounding too much like your reference tracks. One of the worst things you can do too early on is being worried about finding your unique sound. You need to learn how to properly form a song. You need to make your bad tracks. There's no way around it. Let's give a shout out to this guy from my last video who seemed to love the small wrinkle in my collar that I had, and just for him, I wore my most wrinkly t-shirt to present the next 2 biggest mistakes that music producers make. A lot of amateurs struggle with mixing when they're starting out. So for this next one, I'm going to give you a quick tip for the order in which you mix, which can result in an overall cleaner sound. Now, there are no straightforward rules in music production, of course, but I think this is a pretty safe thing to follow, is do subtractive before additive. And what that means is we want to tame the sound before we add to the sound. And that's just because it doesn't make sense to boost things that you're then going to immediately remove. Like for example, it might not be a good idea to saturate before I'm throwing an EQ on, because a saturator is bringing up all of the frequencies. So if I have a bunch of unwanted frequencies there, I'm going to bring those up even higher and then trying to tame them after. That's just not going to work as well as if I tame everything first and then we can go in after and add. Some people's EQ looks like this, and that's fine, but a much cleaner and better way in my opinion is to keep these separate. So these first EQs are purely for removing, and then once all my subtraction is done, then I can go on and add, and that's what this looks like. You know what's a funny thing about trying to learn something new? You don't actually know what you need to know until you're familiar with the process from end to end. It's like you need to be a pro to know the things you even need to search at the beginning, which is why people go to school, I guess, but like, fuck that. I'm gonna save you like 50 racks with this next one. Here's the list of the most important concepts every new music producer needs to know to take their skills to the next level. I promise if you take the small amount of time to learn the following concepts, you will be leagues ahead of people that are just winging it. And the return on investment of how much time will ultimately be saved by you is massive. Ask yourself, do I truly know how to use these tools effectively? And I'm just about to get into the next big mistake that beginners tend to make. If you're a beginner music producer, I think you could really benefit from the following 20-second self-sponsor. Don't you wish you could drag and drop 20 years of chord and melody knowledge straight into your DAW? Well, now you can. SoundConstraints mini pack just dropped with over 60 high-quality MIDI loops. Each and every one is a hit song waiting to happen. You can actually take any instrument or sound and apply it to these MIDI loops. My song has started just like that. Thank you guys for your support. It keeps me going. Let's get on to the rest of the video. After 6 months of producing, you're gonna look back on your first projects and think, holy shit, how did I not hear I was using way too much reverb? And after a year or two of producing, you're gonna look back at your projects from 6 months in and think, holy shit, how did I not hear that I was using way too much reverb? There's a way to save a ton of your computer's CPU, get a cleaner reverb or any effect like delay, and ensure that you're not using too much of it. This is something we all hear about as beginners, but I personally never understood the importance of it until a few years in, and I really wish that I had. And that's fully understanding inserts versus sends. There are multiple advantages that using a send can have, and I'll quickly go through them here. A send allows you to use one plugin instance between an unlimited number of tracks. So I can send this track to the reverb and also this to the reverb, which can help with gluing sounds together by putting different sounds in the same physical space. It also saves on your PC processing power, as you won't have 20 reverb instances on 20 different tracks. Reverb on a send is more of a natural reverb sound that gives a subtle sense of dimension or glues them mixed together. Another great advantage is I can drag an EQ on here, throw a low cut on to reduce the mud, add a high cut to reduce some harshness, little dip here for vocal clarity, and I'm only affecting the reverb send, not the dry original sound. So anything I do to this won't affect my vocal or instrument or whatever. This is the third send, 1, 2, 3. So I'll go to the third return here and adjust the taste. So if you are an amateur music producer, something that can help is turning the reverb up until you think it's at a good level and then backing it off a dB or 2 or 3. And I'll quickly just note that reverb as an insert, which would be just dragging the reverb directly on the track or group, does affect the dry signal, which causes a loss of clarity, which definitely has its place in production, especially if you want to bury a sound way in the back. Inserted reverb tends to work well for more extreme reverb effects and sound design. Now guys, the road from amateur music producer to pro is a long and hard one. And that's because a lot of the aha moments don't come until the end of the road. But what if there was a video that took some of these moments and brought them to the beginning, saving you years of time? Well, there is, and I just made it? Weird. Oh.